an existential crisis, I also tend to think of Barbie. And so let's look at this for a second.
Love it.
um, so I love this question that is at the center of the film and led to a best-selling song and Oscars and all of that. The question, what was I made for? And if you're in college, you should probably be asking yourself that question. And, you might be suddenly on a dance floor and suddenly have this existential question of like, what am I doing with my life and where am I going? And, do you ever think about dying? I mean, I'm of the age where I've lived more life, on the front end than probably what I have on the back end here. And so even something like Barbie can resonate with me. It's part, I guess you'd call it a road trip movie, and you got Ken as the ultimate stowaway on that journey. And along the way, she encounters her creator. Don't want to give away too much, right? But she wants to become, in a sense, fully human. And I think, in a sense, we all want that, and really are asking our creator for that kind of blessing and completion. Of course, the song that arose from it, made by Billie Eilish, she actually dressed up like herself as a young girl and dealt with, playing dress up and playing games. And I think that's some of what you're dealing with even in the stage you're at as maybe a film or media or TV major. You're kind of trying on parts, trying on roles and saying, am I a director? Am I a producer? Am I more of a writer? Do I want to be in front of the camera? Do I want to be behind the camera? Do I even like production? All of those things are normal to be asking. So I considered what was I made for, both kind of the song of the year and really the question of the era. And so this is an article I wrote for Relevant Magazine. You can look it up on your own. But I think that's the existential question I want to start with tonight. What was I made for, and what are you made for? What are we made for? Here's one answer. In Ephesians 2:10, it says that we are God's masterpiece. He's created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things he planned for us long ago. I would say we have all been created by a creator to be creative. And so if that's you, you're probably in the right major. And how that works itself out, what kind of masterpiece you may be writing or creating, and what kind of sculpting God's doing on your own heart and your own career, that's a great question. I do that at Grand Canyon University, so we're not too far from you guys. We're kind of in similar time zones and things like that. So this is our GCU Digital Film Production Club, I believe, which is all student run. And I just love interacting with students. So I look forward to questions and comments from you all. This is the kind of things that we have going on every single day. We just had a film festival last week, and our winners are going to go with us to the Sundance Film Festival. And that's where John and I had a chance to really get to know each other. Great experience. And so we look forward to that and bringing BYU students and GCU students together in the same room, along with about 30 other colleges from around the country. I want to know what brings you joy, because that's also maybe a way to try to discover what was I made for? What is my calling? Even which role on set or in the production, what brings you joy? What brings you anxiety? You maybe want to stay away from that. You don't want to be anxious or worried all day. So what makes you sort of sing and dance, and what makes your heart leap? We have a lot of fun at GCU. This is before one of our basketball games. We get pretty rowdy. I think this was a silent disco that students recently had. So I think just like you, we love sports, we love music, we love, just being alive at this stage of life. What do I love, and what was I made for? Well, one thing I was made for, I think, hopefully, is to be a husband. I'm over 30 years down that road, and this is my wife, who is a professor at USC, and she's a professor of gerontology, so she's dealing with aging. So she's been studying me for a while, and and offering me reassurance that I'm on track. Another thing that brings me joy are my own children. And they are both in grad school right now, so they're maybe just a little bit older than you, um, finishing up their master's degrees, working on their thesis projects even now. To give you some backstory, I was once young as well. I didn't always have this white hair. And my life changed really when I heard the Clash for the first time. I was introduced to punk rock, and that resonated with me in a way that I was like, this makes a lot of sense. They're angry about the things that I'm angry about and are trying to make the world a better place and doing it in a really aggressive musical way. And I felt like an aggressive person at that stage of my life. This is also what I looked like at that time. And so I still have a bit of that punk rock spirit in who I am. And so whatever you are, whoever you are, whatever you're dealing with, I'm guessing somebody like John or myself may have been there and felt that. A film that kind of changed my life a bit. My favorite actor when I was growing up was Humphrey Bogart. And I think I was looking to him for like, I don't know, I'm going to just say role models of like, what does it mean to be a man? He had a really strong code of ethics, but he was always kind of like cagey with the authorities who were trying to entrap him. And he was figuring out how to maneuver around them. And I really liked that. He was loyal to his friends, but kind of figured out how to outsmart those who were trying to entrap him. And so Casablanca became my favorite film. And when I was introduced to Jesus as a person, I thought about Jesus in terms of Bogart as someone who was loyal to those who were his friends, but also figured out when people were trying to entrap him and how to deal with, people who were maybe being disingenuous and had a different agenda. And so Casablanca helped me on my spiritual journey. Amongst my other favorite films of all time, Terrence Malick's Tree of Life. This is like walking through a cinematic cathedral. It'll take you about 3 hours. It'll be like slow and gorgeous and beautiful, and you'll get a little bit lost and you're not even sure why you're there, but you'll suddenly find yourself looking up and maybe just falling down in tears, and you're not even sure why. And then on the other side, that aggressive side of me loves something like Mad Max Fury Road and just the raw power, cinematic power that's contained in there. I don't know what your favorites are. I also love In the Mood for Love. It's just a beautiful film made in Hong Kong that gets at romance. It's maybe like almost an update of Casablanca in its own way. I love TV shows. I love old school TV like The Wire. I love The Office. I love lots of different things. Glad to talk about any of that with you. Musically, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds are probably my favorite band right now. I like 21 Pilots a lot. I like Sinead O'Connor, Bob Dylan, all kinds of things. But Nick Cave had this to say. It may be hard to see here, but he said maybe AI can make a song that's indistinguishable from what I can do, and maybe even a better song. But to me, this doesn't matter. That's not what art is. Art is about our limitations, our frailties, and our humanity, right, as human beings. It's the distance that gets us away from our own frailties. And that's what's awesome about art, that we are deeply flawed creatures who can sometimes do extraordinary things. And AI doesn't just have any of that stuff going on. Ultimately, it just has no limitations. So therefore, it can't inhabit the true transcendent artistic experience, which is based on our limitations. It has nothing to transcend. What a pity. And it feels like such a mockery of what it is to be human. AI may very well save the world, but it can't save our souls. That's what true art is for. And so will AI replace creatives? I don't know. It's a very anxious time to be in our industry. It's very weird and disorienting. But I still believe in human ingenuity. So not AI, but HI. And I wrote a whole book about the power of human ingenuity. I called it Honest Creativity because I think that's what we're going for as creatives. And I want you, if you hear nothing else tonight, to know that you should fear not. that was always the message to, Mary wondering, like, where are we going to stay? Joseph going like, I'm too old to have a kid. The message of Christmas as we come into this season over and over to an anxious people, the angel appears and says, fear not. And so whether you're a senior on the way out and you're like, what job am I going to get? Or whether maybe you're a freshman and you're like, I don't know if this is the right major. I don't know who I should be. Fear not. You can listen to the playlist I put together to go along with the book. It's got a lot of crazy stuff in it. And I think I've got some YouTube links. If you go to YouTube, I've got a YouTube playlist that has a bunch of videos that kind of go along with it. But maybe I'll conclude this opening section just by talking about my own honest failures. As a screenwriter, this is the first film that I got made. It's called The Duke. They always say, write what you know. Well, I wrote about a dog who inherits his master's British title and becomes part of British royalty. Didn't happen to me. Not sure it's ever happened anywhere, but it seemed like a fun idea at the time. This is a director of development from a company called Keystone, who was a friend of mine, and he was looking for kids' projects. And I pitched him this thing, and he was like, that sounds interesting. Send me the script. Why was he interested? Because they had just made a ton of money off a film called Air Bud that was released by Disney. So suddenly they were looking for dog movies, and I happened to have one. It had made, let's see, how much? $24 million off this dog movie in 1997. That's like $50 or $60 million off of a small little dog movie made in Canada. So it was kind of a small indie film that popped for Disney. And so this producer wanted to make more Air Bud movies, but he also wanted to make another dog franchise. So they wanted to buy my script. And they made an offer, and I didn't know if it was a good offer or not. They wanted to buy The Duke. Literally, I sent it to them like on a Thursday or a Friday, and they called me on Monday and said, we want to buy it. I'm not saying that's normal, but it happened to me.
That's incredible.
I didn't even have an agent. So I was looking around for an agent, and this is a guy who used to work for Disney and was a lawyer in their department and was moving into becoming a manager. And he was like, I can help you. And I was like, how can you help me? He's like, I can get you the numbers from Air Bud and what that was. And so he got me the numbers of what was a reasonable amount. And so, it was like $72,000 up front, maybe $17,500 for a rewrite, another $9,000 for each polish that they hire you for. And then when the thing gets made, a $75,000 bonus, $200,000 is probably what you should get for this. I was like, well, that sounds pretty good. But this guy had only one client. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go with a person who has one client. We met at like a coffee shop. He literally was like working out of his trunk. So I was like, I appreciate the numbers, but I'm not going to go with you. I want to go with a more legit place. Who was his one client? Mark Burnett. What's Mark Burnett produced? Just some small things like Survivor, The Voice, and Shark Tank. He hadn't done any of this yet, right? But this is, if I had gone with that person, I would have been his second client. I probably would have been a co-producer of all of these shows. So did I blow it? Maybe. Did I miss it? Maybe. Did it matter? Maybe not, because God took me on my own path. So I'm trying to tell you again, to fear not. Even if you make mistakes, even if you mess up, it's okay, right? Mark Burnett went on to create The Apprentice, and I think sometimes he feels guilty about that, and he ended up in a legal battle with that same manager. They sued each other for millions of dollars at the end of the day. Did I want to be caught up in that? Not really. As it turns out, I still ended up being a neighbor of Mark Burnett in Malibu. We're friends. I know him. And that manager, he was also my neighbor in Malibu, and his kid graduated from high school with my kid. So again, 3 different paths, all millions of dollars floating around, none of which came to me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The movie still got made. Went up to Canada to shoot it. And if you've seen this location, I don't know if you may recognize this location, but if you've ever seen an X-Men movie. That was Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. And this was the home of the dog, the Duke, for my movie. This guy played the butler. And again, you may not recognize him, but anybody who's of a certain age would say, that's Scotty from Star Trek. So I got to meet, like a childhood hero who was in my movie. And this money, the slight problem with this, look at the bottom one, sole credit bonus after filming is complete. Well, guess what happened when they put the credits together? That same producer who wanted to buy the script put his name and his wife's name on as co-writers. And so they took half my money. Mm. And now I had an option to sue, but I was told by the lawyer that it would cost me about the same amount that I would get if I won to sue. And they knew that. So this is, an example. So if the agent gets 10%, the manager gets 10%, the lawyer gets 5%, the Writers Guild gets 1.5%, and a partner shaves that in half, suddenly you're down to almost nothing. Weird, right? But this is the reality of the business that I want you to get a handle on. Film got made. I've had other films get made. I wrote a film called Extreme Days, and this is the young cast, and from that, it starred one of these guys you might recognize, Rufio. Was Rufio in Hook, which was an old Spielberg movie. This guy in the front seat ended up being on SEAL team for 7 years when he grew up. So there's all kinds of interesting things that happen. This is a second movie. I had 2 movies that I wrote that got into theaters. This one opened 2 weeks after 9/11. Nobody wanted to see a surf skating and snowboard comedy 2 weeks after 9/11. So it died before it even started just because of timing. And so was that a failure? I can't say it was a failure, right? As it turned out, it launched the career of Toby Mac. The soundtrack was actually bigger than the film. And years later, I ran into Toby Mac when he had a son who was looking at school. And I gave a tour to him at the school. And he said, man, thank you for my career. I never would have been a solo artist if you guys hadn't commissioned and challenged me to do that soundtrack. So I believe that the knowledge of personal failure is the invaluable predicate to honest compassion. I think that's the starting point, and I think that's where I want to start our conversation tonight.
Wonderful. Great beginning, Craig. Thank you. Rod Gustafson, by the way, is our producer tonight. So if you have any questions, if you've entered those in to the Q&A, or if you want to raise your hand, we'd love to get some people asking some questions of Craig. Rod, do we have anyone? Anything you see?
Not yet. We don't.
All right. Well, Craig, while we warm up the questions from others, I've got a few that I'd like to throw out just to get you thinking through some stuff. You've spent much of your career, right, at the intersection of faith, storytelling, culture. From your perspective, what unique advantages does a faith-filled or faith-formed worldview give emerging filmmakers in today's industry? What kind of sets them apart? What advantages do they have?
Yeah. Well, I think if you're going to be in a creative industry, to be connected to the creator is one of the best wells you can tap into. Yeah. And I think that's a great starting point. Where it gets tough, and I think that's a little of what I was alluding there. You can get hit by a lot of things, right? Even when you think you've made it, it's like, whoa, I got my film made. Now this person's stealing the money from me. How's that happen? God, I was blessed to get a movie made, and now I want to go to court and sue somebody. This doesn't feel very good, right? So how do you, handle both the highs and the lows of the business? You'll see a lot of people, turn into various substances to deal with, those highs and lows, and try to, recapture those highs, or to lift them out of those lows. So I think it's very helpful to have a sense of your calling in God that kind of evens out these highs and lows, right? Even with my second film that got made, it's like, woo, I got another movie. Okay, this is the one. It's going to break big. And then it's like 9/11 hits. And so it's like a tree that fell in the forest. It's like nobody's going to the theater, a week after 9/11. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I feel great at the premiere. I feel awful the weekend after it opens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And both those things are true within like a week of each other.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Uh, and so where do you derive your significance? Where do you kind of come back to? What's your anchor or your base that you're building upon? That's where a life of faith is very helpful for the long haul, right?
Yeah, love that. Love that. One other question that I'll ask. You work a lot with young students. So what qualities do you see in these young storytellers who actually, quote unquote, make it? What are some things that you've noticed over time? Because you've got a storied career, multiple decades. And what holds people back from making it?
That's really good. I actually have a slide about that.
Oh, good. Good, good.
So I was talking a little bit about failure. Um, I ended up making a lot of documentaries, which are lower budget but more satisfying. So I made a doc about Williams syndrome. I made another doc about faith and politics with my college roommate. I made a doc about the justice system in Uganda. Got great satisfaction from those. Less money, but more artistic satisfaction. This is what I call the creative guilt cycle, where you have this sense of, oh yeah, I've got my calling. I know what I want to do. I've got these expectations. Yes, I can make it. And then it's like disappointment. And then it's maybe guilt. And then it's maybe procrastination. And am I a fake or an imposter? And so you get into this sort of shame and guilt and, imposter syndrome, all of those kinds of things, which are just part of what it means to be creative, to live and manage these things. And so, I mean, I would ask even the students listening tonight, what do you battle in these areas and because we all do. You're not alone in that. And I think that's a message I'd want to give tonight too, is that you're not alone. That's why it's good to be in a creative community. That's why it's good to, find brothers and sisters that you feel like you can run with and create with for a long time. And if you forget that, Mavis Staples even has a song called "You Are Not Alone" that I couldn't recommend more. So those are some quick answers to a really good question.
I love that. Love that. Thank you. Yeah, great thoughts. Again, we are open for questions. If you have some that you want to ask, it can be sound only if you don't want to show your face, but we'd love to see your face as well. It could also be just something you enter into the Q&A portion. Let me ask you this too, Craig, as we move along. Where do you see the biggest opportunities for faith-centered creators in a digital algorithm-driven age, especially given the fact that we're starting to see a resurgence, I think, of faith-based content, and we're seeing success at the box office. We're seeing it more on streaming and other options that way. Are there any macro trends you see, and specifically with youth that have a faith background? What are your thoughts with them getting involved? Are there openings now that exist that may not have existed a decade or two before, in your opinion?
Yeah, so you all are part of the digital era. When I was graduating from film school, we were still making movies on film. And while I was graduating from USC, somebody was like, there's a machine next door called the Avid. I don't know how it works, but supposedly you can edit and you don't need any film. We were like, what does that even mean? So this rise of the digital era, where the costs of production have come down, where the ease of you to create your own thing, you have this ability just in the box that you're literally watching this discussion on, and now with the rise of YouTube, you can distribute it immediately, right? Vimeo, if you want it to look a little better, of course, all kinds of different places, Twitch, TikTok, there's different ways to get your story and your message out. So the gatekeeping that was sometimes both financial and other times it was just because Hollywood had a bit of a monopoly on all of that, that has really been reduced. And I think your generation has accelerated it, students. Your choosing to watch on YouTube has undercut a bit of Hollywood's power. And so Hollywood, I would say, is less powerful than ever before, which puts more power in your own hands. Now, it's a very competitive marketplace. Like if you're a singer songwriter, there's like 20,000 new songs released per day. So how you get noticed is tough. It's very crowded, but the ability to tell your own story and put it out there has never been more accessible.
Awesome. Great answer. We have a question. This is from one of our attendees. How do you know when a project is ready to pitch? How can you gauge when to accept a project or save time for something that could be better?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question. Well, this is the beauty of what we do is it's so audience driven that you just try it out. Like try it out with your friends. And if they say that is a good idea, or if they say, I don't know, this isn't clear to me, or I'm not sure, why would I watch that? Right? They're giving you the feedback that you're going to get all the way up the chain. And so in a sense, you can always practice. And the beauty of a pitch, it costs nothing. It's free. It's free. So it's really about taking the risk of putting it out there. And it is risky, you know. I once pitched a story in USC film school class that my professor made fun of and was just like, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. That's just garbage. And I was like, well, I thought it was pretty funny, but okay. And this guy who was part of Hollywood, I think within like about a month, the idea that I pitched, I saw on an episode of Seinfeld. And I mean, it was so specific that it felt to me like he might have even told his friends, check this out. This is the worst idea I've ever heard. And one of the friends was like, well, I don't know. I'm going to take that idea and I'm going to, so the idea.
It's a show about nothing, right?
Exactly. So, in a sense, you're never really protected or safe when you're pitching.
Yeah.
So if you can get your idea on paper, if you can, register it with the Writers Guild, register it with the Library of Congress. If you can write us just an outline, 10-page outline, something, put it on paper just to protect yourself. But then you're going to have to take the risk of putting it out there. And the marketplace will usually tell you whether it's ready or not. That's what people do for a living.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. Love that. So we're going to turn on audio for Ben Burnett. He's got a question for you, Craig.
Come on, Ben.
Hey, Craig. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, Ben Burnett here in Ogden, Utah. Hey, more specifically for actors, if there's somebody new coming into this industry, what would be some tips you would give a new actor that's just like brand new to it, stepping in? I see people that I'm like, for me as a faith, believer, I'm just like, my one thing is like, hey, just don't lose your faith with whatever you do. If you want to go to LA, if you want to stay, in your own hometown. But I'm always looking for other things that can kind of help motivate, encourage. And I'd love from your experience, what would you recommend for somebody that's coming into this industry brand new?
Well, if you're going to move to LA, I would try to save up as much money as possible before I moved. That's just the truth. I would try to buy yourself like 6 months of rent before you go, because it'll take that long to kind of understand how the game is played, even where the game is played. Who are the players, right? Who are the agents? Who are the casting directors? How do I get in front of them? It's going to take some time. And just working in a coffee shop or as a waiter, it'll pay some bills, but not enough of the actual costs of LA. The other thing I would recommend for where you are right now is, as an actor, I would get to know directors. I would try to get to know as many filmmakers as possible because they will take whoever's next to them if they don't have time to go look for somebody else. And so my wife, as one of the, so when I started at film school, it was mostly single people. I was married. And I think my wife got cast in like 5 films the first year. She didn't want to be an actor. She didn't want to do any of the films. But it was a bunch of people who like, I don't even know any women, right? It was a bunch of guys who were just like, I'm scared of women. And you're married to a woman. Could she play, the girlfriend in my film? Could she play the mother in my film? And so just proximity is actually a really, really important thing for an actor. And then I think the third thing I'd say that's probably most important, if you can do it, is to write your own parts. Figure out what you're good at, whether that's, comedy or drama, and create some short films and examples of what you can do. And just put them out there rather than waiting for someone to come and cast you. The guy, let's see, on Saturday Night Live, the guy who plays Trump on Saturday Night Live is a kid from a Christian college.
Oh, really?
It was just funny online and started putting his Trump impersonations online, and it went viral. And suddenly, he had a thing. I mean, one of my students is a actor, writer, who just made funny skits with his friends in college at Pepperdine. And one of the ideas they did was Wes Anderson's Spider-Man. It sounds like a terrible idea, right? And they had heard that Wes Anderson was in talks to do a Spider-Man movie. So they made their own little satirical, like 5-minute version of what Wes Anderson's Spider-Man would look like. You can look at it online. Like, go look at it on YouTube. Just type it in, Wes Anderson Spider-Man. It'll come up. Okay. Well, Jeff Loveness, who made that with his friends, it went viral, and he got called by Jimmy Kimmel out of the blue. Just like Kimmel's people were like, can you make funny videos for us? And like a fool, he was like, sorry, I'm a junior.
Oh, no.
And this is the crazy part. They waited for him a year.
Wow.
They waited until he graduated. And his first week on that job, he had to write a skit for Harrison Ford as a guest. And he wrote a skit starring himself as a nerdy Star Wars fan and against the backdrop of a secret beef between Harrison Ford and Chewbacca. And that skit, again, look it up online, Harrison Ford versus Chewbacca, Jimmy Kimmel. He's the nerd standing up in the middle of that. That kid wrote his own parts, and he was always funny. And since then, he's won an Emmy for writing on Rick and Morty. He won Best Animated Film for Rick and Morty. Best Animated Show. And it was a time travel story. And so then he was hired by Marvel to do Quantum Mania. Mm-hmm. This is all from making one funny video in college. So I hope that encourages you, Ben.
Yeah, that does. Awesome. Thanks, Craig.
Yeah. Ben, thank you. And great answer, Craig. Matthew asked this. Hey, Craig, big fan of what you've shared and what you choose to stand for. I'd love to know what your experience is like involving God in your creative efforts. Are there rituals or other practices that help you engage with the divine?
Beautiful question, Matthew. Man, John, you didn't tell me you had some deep folks out there.
Yeah, we've got some good ones on this.
Saying.
Yeah.
I would say the rituals for me are very interesting. I try to, I guess, make space. I would call it almost like unstructured space. Think about how many great ideas you get like in the shower. Well, like, why is that? Well, it's because you're actually not trying to come up with a great idea. You're literally just like, I'm just, scrubbing myself. And then it's like, ding. Yep. And others might say, well, they may not ascribe that to God, But I would say it's like that's when God can speak to us, is in the in-between spaces. If you go back and look at how Jesus interacted with people, it was almost often on the way. They were literally between like place A and place B. They were just like traveling and just talking about whatever. And suddenly it was like, here's something that occurs to me. And he just like drops a truth bomb on him. And I feel like that's kind of what God does. But we have to, I think, not be working on our creativity enough and just working on our humanity of like, I'm going for a bike ride. I'm going for a walk. I'm going to stop and look at the sunset. And it's like in those moments where we don't have something planned out, where we aren't scheduled and we aren't looking at our phone, that's when the creativity drops in. So if you can do less, I think you'll find yourself to be more creative, which I know is hard to do, right? Because everything is scheduled out. We fill every spare moment with like screen time. But if you can turn it off and just walk away, I don't care what you do. Go play sand volleyball. You can't have your phone when you're playing sand volleyball. I swear God will speak to you in those moments when you power down in order to power up.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, I'm going to inject one of my own questions here while we wait for others to chime in. But you've created over multiple decades, right? It's been a long and storied career. You've seen a lot of cultural shifts, Craig, in your time. So looking ahead, share with us what excites you most about the next generation of filmmakers. You work with young people all the time.
Yeah.
What responsibility do they carry? What do you see in store for them, and what do you hope they bring to the table that maybe decades past we haven't seen?
That's really good. I think this is a extraordinarily kind generation, very compassionate, and I believe empathy has gotten a bad rap in some circles, but empathy is the superpower of the storyteller. And so, to the degree that your heart is soft enough to break and bend and weep and laugh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. And so that process of I would say rehumanizing others, I think is kind of the key to get us something that we haven't maybe seen before. I'll trying to think. Let me give you can I show you another
Please.
example? Let's see if I can find my. So I've taught a lot of students, and it's weird to sort of talk about maybe I'll say trends in that way, but here's an example. So here's a group of some of my former students. Let's see, slideshow. Oh no, that's not what I want to do. Shoot. All right, hold on. Let me jam forward here to where I want to be. Sorry, I had it queued up. Y'all are like, what in the world? Don't look. It's too fast. Your head is gonna explode. So my students. Here's some of my former students. And this was at a premiere for a short film that they made, directed by the guy in the red jacket there in the front, the red hoodie. While he was majoring in film, spent a summer working at a foster home. And it was just for kids who got kicked out of their house, got abused by their parents, and the state intervened. And you can see the poster for the film behind it there. It's a cloud with a smiley face. The film was called Short Term 12, and 12, I think, was like the name of the unit that he was on, and the short term meant that they were assigned there for a short film. I think the tagline for the poster was, a film about kids and the adults who hurt them.
Mm.
I mean, that's just like
Wow.
brutal, right? But he got so deeply into kids' experience and so empathetic in portraying both their pain and their beauty that he submitted this short film that this group made to Sundance. And there's like, I don't know, 10,000 short films, at least 5,000 short films that are submitted. Only 50 get in.
Mm.
And out of that 50, he won. He won Best Short Film in the world at Sundance. This is a kid who is like a homeschooled kid from Maui. He didn't know anybody in Hollywood. He had no plan. He just understood like what pain looked like and how to express joy. And this film, Short Term 12, that won Best Short Film, he then got into the screenwriting program at Sundance and got it financed into a feature that was made for $1 million. But that first feature included, he was so good at casting. That feature had Brie Larson, Lakeith Stanfield, and Rami Malek in the cast. It literally had Oscar winners in their first feature.
Yeah.
That's how deeply empathetic he was. And since then, he went on and directed Shang-Chi. Right? So that's the level. And Hollywood called on him, even though he had no background in Marvel films or special effects. They were like, well, you're good with people and you're good with relationships. And I just feel like that's, I think, the superpower that this generation can step into.
Yeah, that's great. Great answer. And I can't emphasize enough what you just said, relationships, right? That regardless of what you do and how good you are at your craft, if you can't master relationships and like you said, show empathy, be kind, it just doesn't work out. So yeah, do that.
And that director, Destin,
Yeah.
on his set, even while he's making these huge films, he takes a picture every day of somebody from his crew and writes an Instagram post about them, about how great they are, what their job is, and what a difference, how much he respects their artistry and how he couldn't do it without them.
Incredible.
So, I mean, he's just modeling, compassion and humanity on the set every single day.
Incredible. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Hey, another attendee asked this business is very up and down. What do you do to stay motivated? Just stay in the game.
It's a great question. I would just say always be creating, even if you don't, I don't know, quote unquote, have permission. It's like, oh, I don't have any money. Well, I've written 9 books because in between film projects or while the industry is going up and down, it's like, well, I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something with my time. So just start writing. I've probably written, 30 screenplays. So what if only 4 or 5, ever had a shot at getting made? I just keep practicing. It's like I'm in the creative gym. I think if you should just like write songs or paint or take some photographs or make gifts to give to people. Do some sewing, do some weaving. It doesn't matter. Just keep creating and keep that brain going.
Let the creativity out. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
So many forms of that. I love that. Okay, another question just came in. Do you think having social media is necessary for success in the industry in 2025, especially if you don't live in a film hub city?
That's tricky. I think your generation has got a very complex relationship to social media already. My daughter turns off her Instagram about every other month because she's just like, this is making me a worse human and I'm thinking bad thoughts. It's like very hard to stay centered when you're doing this like performative game. But it can be the way that you get from sort of A to B or from this level to the next level. Who was that John that we saw last week? Was it Jeremiah Miller or something? I think that's what his name was. Is that right? Jeremiah Miller? Have to look that up. Look at that name up on Instagram.
Yeah, which
Young people. He's a singer song. He's a singer songwriter,
oh yeah. Yeah.
and he was trying every which way to get noticed. And along the way, he just like strapped a selfie stick to his waist and started skateboarding with like a big loudspeaker on his body. And so he just would like go down a boardwalk. Yeah, yeah, that's him. That's
Yeah.
he would go down a boardwalk and just like sing in the middle of a Saturday afternoon with like the loudest music blaring, and he's skateboarding, and everybody's just like, who is that? And what is that? And he had all these interactions with the police and security guards who are like, you can't do that. And please stop. He's like, yes, sir. All right, sir. I'll stop, sir. And then he'll just like take off singing as he leaves. It's totally hilarious. But he's gotten, a million followers here and a million followers there. And now it's like he sort of has a viable singing career because of his social media reach, But it's a grind. It's a lot of hustle. And I don't, unless you're going to take it really seriously and say, that's going to be my form of creativity, and I'm going to post 3 times a day, it's very hard to piece together enough to turn it into like a career or a something that takes you to the next level.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, another question for you, Craig. It sounds nice to make movies and TV shows with religious characters or themes, but what do you think the market looks like to actually pay the bills creating faith-based works? Is there a middle ground, like a little bit of faith in an action movie that everyone will want to see? Yeah, how do we work between those two expectations?
Yeah. Well, I think some of it depends on your calling. We'll call it faith explicit films. And then there's faith implicit films. And you just have to kind of know, I don't know, which kind of audience you're going after and where are you comfortable? What's your calling? Is your calling to those who might be outside your circle? Or is your calling to encourage people maybe within your tribe? They're both good. They're both important. They're just slightly different. Yeah. I don't think there's ever been a better time to be a person of faith making things, because we have, entire studios like Angel, or entire networks like Great American Media that are open and looking for maybe the kind of projects that you would love to make. I mean, if you want to make Christmas movies, Hallmark specials, literally, right? Hallmark, Lifetime, and GAC are all looking for Christmas stories.
Keep them coming, right?
Right,
yeah.
Right. But my friend who went to film school with me, Scott Derrickson, he came from slightly messier, stronger stuff. So, I mean, he wrote Black Phone and Black Phone 2. Which, again, maybe that's not your calling, but maybe it is. For him, he would say his job is to show people what hell looks like and give them the full implication of that. And his versions of hell are very interesting. Black Phone 2 is set in this icy snowstorm thing, because he's taking Dante's version of Dante's Inferno, where the farther you get from the sun that is God, the colder it gets. Not that Dante didn't say hell was hot. He said hell is the absence of warmth. Yeah. It's icy cold. Even 21 Pilots, it's scaled and icy.
Yeah.
That's their bad guy,
Yeah.
So that's not everybody's calling, but it is his.
Yeah. Love it. Well, if you've got questions, get them in, because I think we've got time maybe for 3, maybe four more. One right here for you, Craig. What kind of a degree do you need to teach film at a college or university? Is this a good way to financially augment a desire to create?
Yeah. I got my undergrad in English, just learning how to read and write.
Yep.
And I got my MFA in filmmaking. And an MFA is viewed as a terminal degree, which sounds bad. It sounds like it's deadly, but it just means that as an artist, you can't really get more than an MFA as a creative person. And so an MFA says, I'm a completely educated artist. And you can teach in a film school, probably any film school, with an MFA degree. MA is okay. MFA, Masters in Fine Arts, which includes a thesis, that's viewed as a little bit higher. And so that's the degree that I'd recommend if you want to do that.
Incredible. That's great. That's great. Here's another question that came in. What role do you believe filmmakers can play today in healing polarization, building understanding, etc.?
Look, I'm a guy who made a film called Purple State of Mind about the red state, blue state divide. I made that thing in like 2005, 6, and 7. So I've been working on that project that you're talking about for like 20 years. And all I've done is seen it get worse. I'm counting on you guys, on your generation, to say, this is madness. What are you stupid boomers doing? Get out of the way and please stop. I really have faith that you guys will come to your senses and realize that the only way forward is the way together. And frankly, that's what the Faith in Media Coalition is all about, is trying to say, I need to advocate for my neighbor and make sure their life is improving before I start to complain about my own life. And realizing that we are inextricably intertwined in this. And so we have got to figure out how to be more neighborly. If your generation will support that content, there'll be a lot of it.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Another question, is it bad to put my own money into my film? Or is it better to try and to get others to invest?
I think it's very helpful to seek out patrons. And maybe patrons first. Do things at a low enough level that you're not really risking much money. And then if you succeed with a little seed money, then you can kind of go back and say, maybe we should be looking at an investment. And maybe we'll add another 0 to our budget. But if you prove to be a good steward, it's very biblical, right? To sort of say, kind of, taking whatever's in your hand and making the most that you can with what you've got and proving that you can be a good steward, that's how you get more money. And so this example of my student, Destin, after $1 million in short-term 12, everybody was like, that was impressive. And he didn't go, straight to Marvel next. In between, I think he made a movie called Just Mercy, starring Bryan Stevenson. That was also beautifully well done, deeply empathetic. And Hollywood was like, okay, well, he did pretty well with that, 40 million. Maybe we can give him 100 million and see what he can do with it. But you don't want to get ahead of yourself. You want to sort of make as much as you can with as little as you have to show what you're capable of. And that's how you will attract more money. If you have to spend your own money, that's okay. But I think it's a good test to see if others will invest in you. Do you have an idea that's compelling enough that others would take a risk and say, I want to see that? And I'm willing to put up some money to see that happen. So I would say learning to seek out patrons and investors is a very important thing. I discuss this some in my book, Honest Creativity, if you want to look for.
Oh, good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And those investors can be family, but they shouldn't all be family, right?
It depends on how much you love your family and how much they love you.
Money does funny things. Get your inheritance early.
Money does funny things with people.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think I'm going to give you 2 last questions that we have. They're slightly different, but you guide us out, Craig.
Sure.
Best way you know how with these 2. The first is, how can I tell if a film school is good And is a university degree important? Am I better to put off tuition dollars into buying my own gear and just going for it, like you said? So that's question one. But number two is this, and it's not totally correlated or related to this, but I think it's important. And I think if you go out on this, it'll I think reset the palette that for everyone with this. You have talked about your personal journey where you've been at a crossroads between choosing to go after people that, monetarily took things from your creativity and the things that you brought. So we talked a little bit about the personal values and the professional pressures that you face. You've got to put food on the table for your family. You've got to, right? You've got to protect your intellectual presence and your licenses that you have access to. So how have you personally navigated that? We talked about rites and rituals, but maybe some of this is prayer, maybe some of this is meditation, maybe some of this, how did you actually get to the point where you didn't hate your neighbor, you loved your neighbor, you prayed for those who despitefully used you and maybe your IP to their betterment. So maybe talk about the film school to start with, and hey, should I just buy gear and go at it? And
Yeah.
then maybe talk about, hey, this is how you can actually leverage your faith tradition, your personal beliefs, your rites and rituals to
Yeah.
make you a better person in this industry.
Yeah. Film school or not. um, some of the people who've made it by not going to film school have been brothers and sisters, literal brothers and sisters. So the Kendrick brothers, the Irwin brothers, the Boylan sisters. Filmmaking is a lonely business. And so maybe having a partner enables you to proceed without that larger filmmaking community because you're never alone in it.
Mm.
If you are alone, it's really tough to be isolated, to feel, crazy, to feel like, am I nuts? Maybe your parents don't get it. Maybe your faith community doesn't understand. That's hard. And so one reason to go to film school is to find co-creators who you can make stuff with over a lifetime together. And if you think about some of the best combinations, it's they don't always get credit, but I discussed this a little bit in Honest Creativity. Steven Spielberg, obviously, he's had John Williams making scores for him, but he's also had an editor named Michael Kahn for like film after film after film. If you go back and look at Martin Scorsese, the films that have really done best and have won the Oscars have been because they were edited by a woman named Thelma Schoonmaker. She's the one who put together, Raging Bull and The Wolf of Wall Street. She is the one who's won more Oscars than he has.
Oh, wow.
And so, finding some collaborators who do things that you can't do and are better at some things than you are, is very important. It's that ability that value add that comes from the most collaborative art form, which is film and TV. And so I am an advocate for film school. How can you find a good one? I mean, there's rankings everywhere. If you can visit or kind of figure out the vibe, that would be helpful. Talking to students, current students, I think is probably the best way to get a sense of that. And then that last question, give me the prompt again, John. I mean, I know you gave it to me, but give it.
Yeah. You've had many crossroads in your life, and again, we talked about that, the personal values versus professional pressures. There had to have been something I would love to hear, and this is more, I guess, for me than anything, but you had to. That's when your faith comes into effect, right? That's when you have to bring it down to earth and say, okay, I'm feeling anger, frustration. You're literally taking dollars out of my pocket. How did you do that? Rites, rituals? Was it meditation? Was it prayer? Was it
Yeah.
talking to your wife? What did that look like for you? Because I think understanding where the rubber meets the road, we can talk about the divine all day and it's wonderful, but eventually it hits anxiety, frustration, anger, where those principles come into your life and make you a better person. It sounds like you took the higher road, and what got you onto that higher road, and
Yeah.
as you see it.
Yeah. There's a verse in scripture where Jesus sends out his disciples and says, you need to be shrewd as snakes and innocent as doves. I'm like, what does that mean? What does that look like? That is confusing.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what I've learned in Hollywood, because you can go in with a certain wide-eyed innocence and just get slaughtered. If you don't have good lawyers, agents, managers, representation, you can get taken to the cleaners fast. So we never think, I've almost never heard a sermon on how to be as shrewd as a snake as a Christian.
Yeah.
What does that look like, right?
That's your next book.
But I think that's probably what I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
Is how do you, and that's where the Humphrey Bogart with the authorities in Casablanca, right? Dude was shrewd. He was dealing with vipers.
Yeah.
In the form of Nazis, actually. So, so how do you navigate that? I mean, a lot of that is prayer, but a lot of it is discernment. It's finding some older people who can tell you about things before you get there. I've been part of it with a group of really 4 men that we meet irregularly whenever any of us need to meet. When you have like a big decision coming up, or when you need more insider knowledge. I'm dealing with Fox. Are they good to deal with? I'm dealing with Disney. I'm dealing with this executive. What have you heard? So it's standing in a sense, arm to arm, with a certain strength, and not trying to go it alone. Right. So you need fellowship, and you need knowledge, and then you need to be really, really shrewd. And I think the bigger final thing I'll say is you also have to figure out how to build resilience into who you are, because you will get knocked down. And so how do you get back up? That is actually what separates talented students from successful students. It's not actually about talent. It's about resilience.
Love it.
Who takes a hit and gets up off the mat. It's hard, man. I don't know, but you gotta toughen up. In the name of God, in the name of Jesus, toughen up.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Great thoughts tonight, Craig. Craig Detweiler, filmmaker, author, pop culture theologian. Thank you so much for your thoughts. And are you okay if we actually share some of your information with students if they have other questions we didn't get to tonight, or share an email address or something? Okay.
Yeah. They can get me. It's my name. It's Craig.Detweiler at gcu.edu.
Great. And we'll send that out via email too.
Or find me on socials. I'll talk to you over the years. Follow me on Instagram and I'll follow you, and we'll see what each other are doing.
All right. Love it. Craig, thank you again.
All right. Peace and love.
All right. We'll see you. Bye-bye now.
All right. Bye.